All the comics and show business don't know what this is. Right?
My conscience is like Broderick Crawford in Born Yesterday.
Who do you think I'm fooling? Who do you think I'm fooling? Who do you think I'm fooling? No place you can run, no place you can hide if you make a wrench me. Shut up!
Jim Carrey doesn't just do interviews, he hijacks them. A normal celebrity goes on late night to promote a movie. Jim Carrey goes on late night and somehow turns the couch, the host, the audience, and reality itself into props. And the craziest part? It never feels random, because behind every wild face, every awkward silence, every story that sounds too insane to be true, there's a pattern, a strategy, a genius-level understanding of tension, release, and total social chaos. And yes, by the end of this video, we are getting to the moment where Jim Carrey looked straight into a red carpet camera and made an entire industry wonder if the interview was comedy, philosophy, performance art, or a public glitch in the Matrix. But to understand that moment, you have to go all the way back to when he was still just a human special effect. Back in 1983, Jim Carrey walks onto Johnny Carson's stage, and within seconds, it's obvious this is not a regular stand-up set. He's not just telling jokes, he's shape-shifting. His face changes, his voice changes, his body practically folds into different people. 1 second, it's impressions. The next, it's a physical bit about being attacked by a dog. And then suddenly, he's singing. Most comics try to be liked. Young Jim Carrey was doing something riskier. He was trying to overwhelm you, not in a bad way. In a there is so much energy coming off this man that the camera can barely keep up kind of way. That's the blueprint right there. Jim's chaos works because it's never lazy. It's athletic. He attacks dead air like it personally offended him, and the audience feels it immediately. They're not politely laughing. They're reacting like they're watching somebody discover a superpower in real time. Then the 90s happen, and suddenly Jim Carrey isn't just a weirdly gifted comic. He's the guy. And when he hits Letterman in 1994, you can see what fame did to the chaos. It didn't calm him down. It gave him more toys. He starts flipping through tabloids on air, mocking stories about his paycheck, mocking stories about his love life, mocking the whole celebrity machine while standing inside it. It's beautiful. He's promoting the mask, but really, he's doing something even more dangerous. He's exposing how fake all of this is while still being the most entertaining person in the room. That rich people laugh bit? Perfect Jim Carrey. He takes one tiny observation, turns it physical, turns it vocal, turns it weird, and suddenly a simple joke becomes a full-body performance. That's what separates him from almost everybody else. Jim doesn't deliver punchlines. He detonates them. By the time he gets to Conan in Toronto, he's not even doing interviews anymore. He's building mini-universes. He walks in and starts singing about Ontario like he's leading a national anthem nobody asked for. Then he introduces a fake Canadian posse. Then he invents the kidding face, which is basically a fake expression that lets you say absolutely insane things to your friend while pretending it's all love. And suddenly, this normal talk show segment becomes a bizarre little sketch about friendship, national identity, mock cruelty, and total silliness. That's another Jim Carrey secret. He understands that the funniest thing in any room is commitment. If he commits harder than everyone else, the room has no choice but to follow. Even Conan, a man fully trained for weirdness, stops feeling like the host and starts feeling like he just got pulled into Jim's dream. And that happens a lot with Jim Carrey. Hosts don't interview him, they survive him. But then Jim goes from chaotic to suspiciously chaotic because on Jimmy Kimmel, he does one of the funniest fake breakdown bits ever aired on a mainstream talk show. He takes a stupid hand gesture and starts talking like he's exposing a global conspiracy. He's the whistleblower. He's done with the lies. The symbol means something. The Illuminati are everywhere. And he sells it so hard that for a few seconds, you can feel the room doing that dangerous little mental shuffle. Wait, is he kidding? He is kidding, right? Okay, no. This is definitely a joke, I think. That uncertainty is where Jim lives. He's brilliant at dragging you right to the edge of sincerity, then smiling while you try to figure out if the floor is still there. And just when he has the whole thing at maximum absurdity, He undercuts the bit with a fake interruption and casually swings into a movie plug. That is elite-level chaos, not random chaos, controlled chaos, Josh Biz Aikido. Because then there's the Grinch story. This one sounds like a lie. It sounds like something Jim Carrey would invent mid-interview just to make Graham Norton spit out his tea. But no, it's real. Or at least real enough that the details are insane. He says the Grinch makeup felt like being buried alive. The first day took 8.5 hours. He went back to his trailer and put his leg through the wall. He wanted out. So what does Hollywood do? Do they simplify the makeup? Do they rethink the schedule? No, they bring in a man who trains CIA operatives to endure torture. That is maybe the most Jim Carrey sentence ever spoken, and it didn't even happen in a movie. Then he lists the survival tips. Eat everything you see, change the pattern, get smacked in the head, punch your leg, smoke as much as possible. And now the image is burned into your brain forever. Jim Carrey in full Grinch makeup, chain smoking through a giant cigarette holder so the yak hair doesn't catch fire, whispering to himself, "It's for the kids." That's the hidden engine again. The chaos is funny because it comes from real pressure. He doesn't invent intensity. He metabolizes it. And then we get the most legendary Jim Carrey story ever told about another actor, Tommy Lee Jones. This is the part where Jim explains that he was excited to work with Tommy on Batman Forever. Then he sees him at a restaurant. Tommy looks at him like he just saw the physical manifestation of a migraine. Jim goes over to say hello. Tommy hugs him, and then, according to Jim, tells him, "I hate you. I really don't like you." Already unbelievable. But then Jim asks what the problem is, and Tommy Lee Jones delivers one of the greatest lines in Hollywood history. "I cannot sanction your buffoonery." That line is so perfect it almost feels written. Like if a screenwriter pitched it, people would say, "Too on the nose." But what makes the story incredible isn't just the insult. It's Jim's retelling. Because Jim turns the memory into theater. He doesn't just repeat what happened. He performs it. He gives it rhythm. He gives it pain. He gives it punch. That's his genius. Even conflict becomes material. Even rejection becomes a bit. Most people get wounded and close up. Jim gets wounded and somehow makes it watchable. And just when you think Jim's whole thing is pure disruption, Conan proves there's another side to it. When Jim crashes Jeff Daniels' interview for a surprise Dumb and Dumber reunion, the whole segment instantly lifts off. Jeff describes Jim like a tornado you just grab onto and hope to survive. That might be the best description of Jim Carrey ever, because when Jim enters a room, he changes its weather. The energy spikes. The audience gets louder. Everybody on stage starts moving faster. Even the memories get more animated. It's not just that he's funny. It's that his presence gives everyone else permission to become bigger too. That's why his best chaotic moments don't feel selfish. They're contagious. He's not just stealing the spotlight. He's turning the spotlight into a bonfire and dragging everyone closer. Then Stephen Colbert does something brilliant. He doesn't try to contain Jim Carrey. He reframes him. He asks Jim to perform his old comedy lines as dramatic acting. And suddenly, this man who spent decades making the world laugh is redoing Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, and The Mask like he's auditioning for prestige drama. And somehow, it works. So you're telling me there's a chance becomes weirdly heartbreaking. A ridiculous line suddenly sounds desperate. Human. Almost tragic. That's when you realize Jim Carrey's chaos was never just chaos. It was always performance at full voltage. Underneath the rubber face is a guy who understands stakes better than most dramatic actors. He knows how to make a line feel huge. He knows how to bend tone until it snaps. He knows that comedy and discomfort and sadness are all sitting way closer together than people want to admit. And that's why even his dumbest bits live forever, because he never treats them as dumb. At the Britannia Awards, Jim Carrey walks on stage, and you think you know what version of him you're getting. Maybe silly, maybe playful, maybe one or two wild lines and a grin. Instead, he gives one of the strangest and most compelling speeches of his career. Starts funny. Of course it does. He makes a joke about the whole thing being an illusion. He pokes at the ceremony. He lets the audience relax. Then he pivots. Now he's talking about Charlie Chaplin. Pain, empathy, monsters, creativity, capitalism without a conscience, villains, children, truth. balance, and suddenly the room realizes this isn't a bit anymore, or maybe it still is, just a deeper one. That's why Jim Carrey is so hard to categorize. He can be absurd and sincere in the exact same sentence. He can do clown logic and moral outrage without changing his pulse. Most entertainers have one gear. Jim has trapdoors. And by this point in his career, the public has learned an important lesson. If Jim Carrey starts talking and it feels a little uncomfortable, don't leave. That's usually where the good part starts. Which brings us to the moment, the one that went viral. The one that made people laugh, panic, debate, meme, diagnose, defend, and replay it over and over because nobody could decide what exactly they had just watched. New York Fashion Week, red carpet, Harper's Bazaar icons party. A setting so artificial it practically begs for satire. And then Jim Carrey shows up. The interviewer asks a normal red carpet question. Jim starts circling her. Already the room feels off balance. Then he says he came to the most meaningless thing he could find. He says there's no meaning to any of this. He says he doesn't believe in icons. He doesn't believe in personalities, and then the line lands. There is no me. There's just things happening. Now, if literally anyone else says that on a red carpet, security might escort them into a quiet room. But Jim says it with that impossible mix of mischief, conviction, exhaustion, and performance. And suddenly, the whole clip becomes this perfect Jim Carrey artifact. Hilarious, awkward, philosophical, ridiculous, kind of profound, and completely impossible to ignore. That's the genius behind his chaos. He understands that entertainment is not just about being funny. It's about breaking the rhythm people expected. It's about making a familiar setting feel unstable. It's about creating a moment so strange, so alive, so watchable, that people cannot look away. Johnny Carson saw raw electricity. Letterman got a chaos engineer. Conan got a human tornado. Kimmel got a fake whistleblower. Graham Norton got a Christmas torture survivor. Tommy Lee Jones got buffoonery he could not sanction. And that red carpet? That red carpet got turned into performance art because Jim Carrey's real talent was never just impressions. It was never just slapstick. It was never just saying wild things. It was knowing exactly how far to push a moment until it stopped being an interview. Errand became a scene. And maybe that's why decades later, we're still watching. Not because Jim Carrey was chaotic, but because the chaos always meant something even when he told us it didn't.